and our Redeemer. Amen. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with the fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still. And his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the graves of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. Friends, today is the 10th day of Black History Month. It is a month when we take time nationally to celebrate and remember the important contributions and achievements of African Americans throughout this nation's history. A very quick Google search will provide for us a list of important events that have taken place on this specific day throughout the course of our history. I encourage you to go home and see what you can find, and yes, that means I've just given you homework. But one event that I'd like to highlight, though it's often mentioned in July due to its enactment, actually holds significance during this month and day in particular. Friends, in 1964, the House of Representatives, deliberating over a 10-day period in February, working its way through 120 amendments and considering the opposing positions, voted to approve the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That makes today the 55th anniversary. 5 months later, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was signed into law, abolishing racial segregation in the United States of America. It is true when people say Black history really shouldn't be tied to just 1 month. But friends, I share this piece of our history with you in conjunction with the opening poem by Maya Angelou for 2 reasons. The first is to shed light on the reality that just 55 years ago, segregation in public places was permitted, and employment discrimination was constitutional. Just 55 years ago, I likely wouldn't have been standing here. But the second reason, and the one I intend to focus on for the duration of this sermonic moment, is that when we consider our nation's history, and when we specifically consider what it means to remember and reflect during Black History Month, and to take seriously the words of this poem, we likely find ourselves having to ask the question, why does the caged bird sing? And friends, in order to answer that question, we have to consider for a moment the importance of song and music in the history of a people who longed and probably still long for freedom. You see, many of the hymns and spirituals were birthed out of experiences that neither you nor I could really imagine. But they provide for us a glimpse of the story if we'd be willing to listen. And although I seriously considered singing throughout today's sermon, I tend to agree with blues legend B.B. King when he said, "I don't want you to just hear the melody. I want you to relive the story, because most of the songs have pretty good storytelling." And I mean, the truth is, we're all better off if I don't try to hit any notes or pretend I can sing. So friends, why does the caged bird sing? In fact, why do any of us sing? Beyond the melody, the love for the sound, and the fact that some of us do it extremely well, what does it mean when we sing? For a people that knew whips, chains, bondage, barriers, and closed doors, and who have experienced legal, physical, mental, financial, and emotional segregation for centuries, why did they sing? And what really did it mean? And also for people who have found themselves on the other side of those disparities and circumstances, what does it mean to sing those same songs? Now, while the response to those questions might vary depending on who you ask, and while I certainly do not speak for everyone, I'd like to suggest that when it specifically comes to some of those hymns and spirituals that were birthed out of the African American experience, or those that have been rewritten and rearranged by African American songwriters, there are perhaps 3 reasons why we sing. First, singing was and continues to be a mode of prayer. Pass me not, O gentle Savior, hear my humble cry. While on others thou art calling, do not pass me by. Jesus, keep me near the cross, there a precious fountain, free to all a healing stream flows from Calvary's mountain. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Precious Lord, lead me home. I want Jesus to walk with me. In my troubles, Lord, walk with me. When my life becomes a burden, Lord, I want Jesus to walk with me. Friends, for many, the lyrics of these songs were prayers to God for peace amidst distressing times, hope amidst fearful circumstances, and petitions for God's presence amidst evil and darkness. These and many other songs became, throughout the course of history, songs of prayer and lament to the only one with whom this kind of transparency was welcomed. Surely we have all encountered moments in life where we approached prayer and nothing escaped our lips except for a song. It really is true that sometimes singing is all you can do. And thankfully, we serve a God who welcomes prayer in song just the same. But not only was song a mode of prayer, but in that same way, singing was and continues to be a form of communication. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forward to carry me home. If you get there before I do, tell all my friends I'm coming too, coming forward to carry me home. Wade in the water, children, God's gonna trouble the water. Who's that young lady dressed in blue? Must be children that's coming through. God's gonna trouble the water. Follow the drinking gourd, for the old man is awaiting for to carry you to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd. Now the riverbank makes a mighty good road, the dead trees will show you the way. Left foot, peg foot, traveling on, follow the drinking gourd. As coded messages used to announce midnight worship in slave communities, or to announce the plans for the Underground Railroad and to keep the lines of communication open to all who were enslaved, singing became one of the only ways for enslaved persons to communicate with one another. Banned from speaking their native languages, banned from worshiping together, and certainly banned from trying to escape. The spirituals were a means for keeping in touch, despite the many attempts to keep slaves silent. But more than that, songs of communication gave people an opportunity to check in on one another. In the traditional form of call and response, oftentimes these songs were sung, alternating between the voice of a leader within the community and those around. So as to say, I'm checking in on you. How are you doing? Did you get the message? Hey, we're all in this together. If you've ever attended a worship service and heard the preacher tell you, turn to your neighbor, that's where some of this comes from. Now, as I think back on what it means for us to be in community, I wonder, might there be a thing or two we could learn about calling out and responding to one another to check in from time to time? Because after all, we still sing the same songs. Perhaps we can bring to life the lessons they were trying to teach us. And third, yet still along those same lines, singing was and continues to be a prophetic cry for freedom. Oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Soon I will be done with the trouble of the world, trouble of the world, trouble of the world. Soon I will be done with the trouble of the world, going home to live with God. I'm gonna lay down my burdens down by the riverside. I'm gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more, gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. Though enslaved and a long way from freedom, singing became a way for many to prophetically declare their freedom. Years after slavery had ended, all through Jim Crow, and even today, these same songs have been prophetic songs of hope for the healing, freedom, and life we all deserve. What a powerful thing it is to be able to sing of your healing when there are no signs of healing around you. As a form of prayer, communication, and a cry for freedom, singing has been and will continue to mean so much for so many people. And in light of a month when we celebrate and remember the contributions of people who are responsible for composing and rewriting many of the songs we sing, what an honor and privilege it is to be able to sing them together. Because you see, although I stated that there were 3 reasons why we sing, there is perhaps a 4th. What I've provided for us up to this point are the reasons why some of these songs were written and why they were sung during such painful moments in our history. There are many more songs, some celebratory, some songs of praise and thanksgiving, but perhaps the thing we all need to tie all of this together is to consider for a moment what it means to be able to sing those same songs together. I noted earlier that just 55 years ago, I'd likely not be standing here. And what I mean, among many things, is we did not always have the privilege nor the opportunity to stand, sing, and fellowship with one another. What a joy and what an honor it is to be able to do that now. What a powerful thing it is to know a little bit more about the meaning behind these songs. Because you see, what can happen now is we can sing the same prayers, communicate the same messages, and declare the same prophetic cry, but this time together. We can call out those same systems and structures that declare some free and others caged. And we can join together in true Christian love and sing these same songs with a new understanding for what it means to pursue justice. Not the kind of kumbaya Christian love that just sounds good when you say it, but the kind that breaks down barriers, refuses to build walls, and speaks up when something needs to be said. You see, Paul and Silas prayed and sang hymns to God, and the earthquake that followed was so strong and powerful that it shook the foundations of the prison and immediately caused all of the doors to be opened and everyone's chains to become unfastened. What a powerful thing it is for someone else's prayer in song to become a declaration of freedom for everyone around them. What a powerful thing it is for music and singing to then become an act of resistance, wherein we all get to declare and advocate for the freedom of all. Suddenly, these aren't just songs with a sweet melody that sounds good to the ear. Suddenly, these songs become for all of us a means to participate in the fight for freedom for all. Friends, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 may have addressed one form of injustice, but the fight for freedom continues. There are still caged birds singing their song, and with our voices, we ought to sing along. As we sing, may we remember the meaning behind the song. May we remember the stories they tell. May we remember the pain out of which they were birthed. But may we keep singing the same songs. But this time when we sing, let us sing with freedom, justice, healing, and life in mind for all. Friends, we know why the caged bird sings, but perhaps they no longer have to sing it alone.